Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and this is a breakdown of The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 8, Chapter 16, the season finale, titled The Rescue. A big spoiler warning before I continue, because we have just had our 2020s rescued by the return of Luke Skywalker, Jedi Master carving dark troopers like Christmas turkeys. But is it a true rescue? Because this dude's future school is gonna get massacred and torched by his nephew. Don't go, Grogu! Yes, much of this finale episode was pure fan service. But from its Alderaan referencing opening to its King Boba post-credit scene, there are a ton of missable details. Aurebesh to translate, specifically chosen fight choreography, music, deeper layers of meaning that you might not have thought about. So I'm gonna break it all down, shot by shot. You're gonna love this one. Okay, the Slave One is in hot pursuit of Dr. Pershing's Lambda-class shuttle. This is reserved for VIPs of the Empire, but they disable it with an ion cannon. This is what they use to escape Hoth in The Empire Strikes Back, and then they board the ship.
Lower your shields. Disengage all transponders. Prepare for boarding.
Yeah, the tension here reminds me of the fear of the crew of the Tantive 4 when they were being disabled and boarded by Darth Vader. Think about it, this whole episode opens and closes with echoes of Vader just like this. And then the meaner of the two Imperial pilots, Joe Dabney Courtney from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., confirms Dr. Pershing's role for us.
Listen to me, this is a top-tier target of the New Republic. This is a clone engineer.
Yeah, we knew he was a clone engineer from those Camino patches, but I find it interesting that he's a major target of the New Republic, suggesting that they might know cloners are working for remnants of the Empire, or maybe that the New Republic has some genetic experiments of their own going on. The pilot points out the tear tattoo on Cara Dune's cheek, which marks her as an Alderaanian survivor. And he says that, I had friends on the Death Star, and that Alderaan's destruction was worth it. It has been very interesting to see Alderaan come up so much this season in terms of the psychological effect it's had on both sides of this conflict. We will go deeper into that question in our final episode of Wookiee Leaks coming out next week. These industrial smokestacks have the symbol of the pre-Empire Republic on them, which is interesting, suggesting they might have resisted Imperial influence. The Slave One lands beside this ship. This is Bo-Katan's ship, the Gauntlet. Saw that in Clone Wars final season. Looks so cool. Can also barely make out some astromech droid rolling on the landing yard. I always say that because whenever I see one of those, I'm like, is it R2? No, it's not R2, but then this episode, R2 did show up at the end. Now, in this diner are some familiar races. There's some Aqualishes, there's a Rodian, and what looks like a Jara Spachka on the bar there, with Bo-Katan and Koska Reeves at the far table, coming back from Chapter 11. Now, where was Axe Woves? I assume he was just in the toilet, and was very confused to come back and find everybody gone. I'm not paying for this! But before I continue, thanks to, say it with me, Vessi Shoes for sponsoring this video! You know I love these things. Vessi Shoes reflect water and snow like Beskar steel deflects stormtrooper shots, if any of them have good enough aim. Vessi makes these knit sneakers that are 100% waterproof and weatherproof, and way more comfortable than some stiff old winter boots. Beat it, boots! Vessi shoes are super stretchy. They fit like a sock. They only weigh 175 grams, and they're made with this space-age Dynamex material. So these shoes you can wear every day in all kinds of weather. You can leave them by the door and have one less thing to worry about. They are easy to clean with just a rinse of water, or just toss them in the washing machine. Another thing you can't do with boots, damn boots, Vessis are sustainably made with no animal byproducts. Whether I'm stomping through puddles or just diving deep on some Mandalorian Easter eggs, Vessis keep my feet dry and comfy.
Oh, I'm so sad that there's no more Mandalorian episodes this season to break down. I've been crying all over my shoes, but luckily, thanks to these Vessi knit sneakers, my tear juice isn't getting my toesy woesies any wet. Thanks, Vessi! Yay!
Click on the link below and use my code NEWROCKSTARS to get $25 off. Oh, but look at that, there's a menu board in Aurebesh. Merry Christmas. Here's what's for dinner. Starting on the left column and working our way down, we got Kadu ribs. Kadu are the creatures that the Gungans ride on Naboo. Yum. And then there's Gornt. Gornt is a meat from the omnivorous beast from Hithar, often referenced in insults and jokes in Legends material, like Wedge Antilles once started a joke saying, so there's a Bothan who walked into a tap cap staff with a gaunt under his arm. Then there's roast Nuna. Jabba the Hutt was eating some Nuna and Phantom Menace, really playing with this food. Nuna are the swamp turkeys of Naboo. You can actually see them on the menu at Batu in Disneyland's Galaxy's Edge. There's a kind of stew. And then there's Endorian Tip Yip, which is actually a fried dish that you can also get at Galaxy's Edge, the Tip Yip of Endor. And Disneyland is just kind of like fried chicken on a bed of veggies. Then there's Shak Kebab, made from the fat-ass shot tick-looking mammals that Anakin surfed on Naboo before almost dying. And then there's Jorgen and Topato. Topato, anagram for potato.
Boil 'em, mash 'em, stick 'em in a stew.
Is a root veggie. Our old diner friend Dexter Jetster uses Topato slices on his Coruscant slider. Then there's Yoba shrimp. Yoba shows up in the Legends Legacy of the Force Invincible book. Space waffles. Okay, actually space waffles is a food that has appeared in Rebels and Clone Wars. They love it. And then we move to the top of the right column. This Mealaroon. I say Mealaroon juice, which is another Legends fruit that has shown up in Rebels. Hera loves these things. Again, you can buy this juice at Galaxy's Edge. I want to go to there. Then roasted CD. And then Haroon bread along with Lambda and Harissa. These were served on Shmi's table when Qui-Gon, Jar Jar, and Padme stayed with them in Phantom Menace. And then Kushnip with Thrall, which is a dish served at Maz Kanata's place in The Force Awakens. And then Polystarch, that's that awesome muffiny looking bread that Rey makes on Jakku, an effect done practically. In universe is actually a gross military ration. I don't know why anyone would want to order this at a diner. And the same goes for the veg meat, which is a ration protein that was also in The Force Awakens visual dictionary. It might be why these two appear at the end of the menu. They're kind of cheap crap for anyone with limited credits. So that covers this menu, but if you are wondering what this means,
All of that isn't the Quacta calling the Stifling slimy.
no help there. Quacta and stifling are new terms that will probably get trading cards sometime soon. Then Casca also mentions a Bacta tank. That's the healing tank we have seen Vader and Luke swimming around in. Bo-Katan and Casca do not get off on a good foot with Boba Fett.
You are a disgrace to your armor.
This armor belonged to my father.
Don't you mean your donor?
Careful, princess.
You are a clone. I've heard your voice thousands of times.
Boba calls Bo-Katan princess. It's not just an insult, it's a nod to her actual royal lineage and previous ownership of the Darksaber and presumably humiliating defeat at the hands of Moff Gideon. And yeah, Boba would have the same voice as every other clone that Bo-Katan met during the Clone Wars. And also you'll notice her eyeline gets a perfect look at his sigil on his repainted armor. This is a nod to Jaster Miriel, mentor to his father, donor Jango, and their clan, the true Mandalorians, who were longtime enemies to the Death Watch, which was Bo-Katan's previous clan before she left the Death Watch to start her own Night Owls. Really, it's that Boba Fett wrote off Mandalore as a lost cause that pissed her off so much. She said that the Empire turned it into glass, as in they lasered it so hard the sand melted into glass. So they team up and they form a plan with Dr. Pershing now on their side. Remember, he did want Grogu to be kept alive, explaining why he might be more eager to help with their plan. He explains that the Dark Troopers have this 2-minute window as they charge up, and that they are the 3rd generation, not to them being Phase 3 Dark Troopers from that Dark Forces game. Their approach plan is pretty clever. They use the Slave One to pretend they're in distress, and then they use that Lambda-class shuttle to block the launch tube so that no further TIE fighters could exit. And I love Bo-Katan's initial assist here. She ropes a stormtrooper and then sets him up for Casca to jet knee into him. Teamwork! And this leads to a true girls get it done raid. Sorry, Axwoves. Those space waffles were how much? Now, a little detail that I appreciated. When they knocked that stormtrooper off the walkway through that shield into open space, his speed kind of flatlines constant the moment he falls through that barrier, as opposed to like a normal accelerating drop, which makes sense. You would move at the constant velocity that you were traveling at the moment you cross through that barrier, and then your speed is just kind of constant from there forward. Then we pass what looks like an RA-7 droid, like the one we saw in the Jawa's Sandcrawler in the first movie, and as Mando tries to bottle up those Dark Troopers, one claws his hands out the doors, similar to the T-1000 that he does to the elevator doors at T2 Judgment Day. And I say that because these things are super Terminator-y. He just keeps punching Mando's head into the wall, though I love how Mando's helmet doesn't give, it just smushes deeper into the bulkhead. Mando stabs that Dark Trooper with his Beskar spear, and he finds Grogu with Moff Gideon.
Assume that I know everything.
A very important line, because think about it, Moff Gideon knows that Bo-Katan is with him. He actually heard her voice over the comm earlier.
We are under attack.
And he saw her arriving on the feed, probably recognizing her Night Owl paint on her armor. And he knows that she is here for the Darksaber. Darksaber. So Mando now telling Gideon that he doesn't care about that Darksaber is a potentially critical error for Mando, because it tells Gideon that he should engage Mando anyway, because even if he loses, Mando winning and being able to claim that Darksaber totally screws over Bo-Katan. It'll create a point of contention between the two, because it has deprived her of her chance to truly claim her saber back. And by the way, this whole Elder Wand succession rule seems to be a bit new, because when Bo-Katan first received that Darksaber in Rebels, she did not win it in combat. Sabine Wren just found it in Maul's cave and then handed it to her. But as we discussed in WikiLeaks, and we will go into further next week, I think Bo-Katan's need to win comes from her own stinging defeat. She lost it to Moff Gideon, and by winning it from her, he proved himself worthier than her when she was just kind of given it. So in order to reclaim it and win back the respect of the Mandalorian people she has let down, she must claim it with blood. And that's why the rule is so important to her. As Mando and Gideon fight, notice how the Darksaber doesn't cut the Beskar spear, but it does heat it up to a nice warm orange glow, almost enough it looks like to melt it. Now, we did not see it get to that point when Ahsoka was fighting Morgan, lightsaber versus Beskar spear. I think that is because of the Darksaber's unique design. Notice as Gideon turns it, we briefly just see it as pure white. We only see its edge. It's flatter. Most lightsabers are pole-shaped. They have this cylindrical beam of plasma, but the Darksaber is a flattened, sharper sword with a finer edge capable of wedging into the Beskar, less likely to slide up and down it. So they end up holing up in the bridge as the Dark Troopers are returning, but then this happens.
X-Wing.
One X-Wing? Great. We're saved.
Yes, notice Grogu's ears perking up, telling us that this is the Jedi that he pinged from that Tython Scene Stone. And yeah, whenever there's just one solitary X-Wing, we know it is our man, Luke Skywalker. And clearly the production team of this show knows that it's gonna be awkward to see his de-aged face. So they do the smart thing of preceding his reveal by showing him as a hooded badass. Look at him go. Actually, there's this little detail where he uses a behind the back deflection, just like his father Anakin did to that battle droid on Mustafar in Revenge of the Sith. And as he realizes who this is, fear fills Gideon's eyes, and he kind of goes nuts with that blaster. He tries to take out Grogu. This does echo Werner Herzog's client character being willing to take that child dead or alive. Both of them know the worst thing is for Jedi Master Luke Skywalker to get his hands on this child from the Yoda species. And fearing what this means for himself, he even tries to take his own life. Holy shit! Luke's death march continues into this final tunnel where the imagery matches the kill box that his father, Vader, created with the rebel soldiers in Rogue One. And this includes everything: violent lightsaber slashes, force pushes, force pulls, sparks are flying, and it ends with this awesome force crush. It's not a common move used by the Jedi though. In the animated Clone Wars movie, Mace Windu used it on Grievous, which is what caused Grievous to have his sad breathing issues. And then Luke enters the bridge and reveals his face. Notice how his hand is covered in a glove because, of course, it was severed. And naturally, we hear the music of John Williams' Force theme, the Binary Sunset. So yes, they de-aged Mark Hamill. They used the same process that they used with Carrie Fisher in Rogue One. They started with a stand-in actor with similar facial structure. In this case, with Luke, it was Max Lloyd Jones. And then they digitally mapped Hamill's younger face from archive footage over it, and then did their best to match the motion of his facial expressions and his mouth movement. Now, it is not totally clean, especially when he talks, just because it is nearly impossible for animators to try to replicate the way the mouth and the jaw folds and wrinkles to make it fully lifelike. There's just lots of different skin surfaces. It's hard to animate that out of the uncanny valley. But Luke says this interesting line:
"But talent without training is nothing."
Which I gotta say, sounds a bit like a meta call out to, oh, I don't know, the way Rey was written to be an immediate Jedi badass based on natural talent with hardly any training. But as Mando removes his helmet so Grogu can see his face for the first time, definitely echoing the moment Luke unmasked Vader for the first time, allowing Vader to gaze upon his son figure with his own eyes. Notice the music. Yes, we are back to that sweet, heartfelt, wondrous music that played over Grogu connecting with his future snack food back in Chapter 10. Clearly, this is the music of Grogu's childlike wonder, fascination, and feeling of home. And as we are crying, Mando tells him,
"Don't be afraid."
Which is perfect because it isn't just reassurance, it is advice to resist the child's fear of losing personal attachments like this, something Ahsoka warned him about.
Sense much fear in you.
And we know that fear is what class? The path of the dark side. But Luke, of course, ain't the only cameo. R2, he shakes with excitement upon seeing Grogu, which could be a signal that R2 might recognize this species and might remember Yoda, or the possibility that R2 could have been the one who saved Grogu from the Jedi Temple. I'll explore that in another video. And we get this post-credit scene showing Boba Fett and Fennec Shand taking Jabba's palace, now ruled by a chubby Bib Fortuna. He was formerly Jabba's right-hand man. And all this is very reminiscent of Act 1 of Return of the Jedi. We see all of his old cronies and buddies. Actually, that backup dancer is Ristal Sant, returning from Return of the Jedi. Great attention to detail, and I love how we see their shadows as they're coming down the steps, just as they saw Luke's shadow coming down those steps. But the detail I love, the word Bib Fortuna says, "Pizza, McClunky." McClunky. Oh boy, you know this one. This was added in as the final words of Greedo when A New Hope appeared on Disney+.
McClunky.
But this wasn't just a random thing. This was actually confirmed to translate to "This will be the end of you," and it was spoken by Sebulba to Jar Jar back in Phantom Menace. And as Boba sits atop his throne, Fennec swigs some spatchka at his side. The Book of Boba Fett is coming December 2021. Some are saying this could just be the subtitle of The Mandalorian 3rd season. I actually think it's just gonna be a whole other spin-off limited series. Now, I go much deeper into where Grogu is headed next with Luke, whether he is one of the victims of Kylo Ren, and whether he will ever return to this series, and what form that will take. He will, he's probably gonna be a silent teenager taking a vow of silence. All in the recent episode of WikiLeaks. Definitely go check that out. It's a great episode. Also, a reminder to get your limited edition This Is the Way shirt exclusive from New Rockstars official merch store, newrockstarsmerch.com. We've been selling out of this fast. We might still have a few more red and white varieties. Surprisingly to us, lots of random people have been buying these shirts from just outside our channel, but they don't really know the significance of it being a collectible limited run item, latest obsession. We want to make sure true watchers of this channel can get priority for it, so we are going to give you guys a coupon in our diehards to try to make sure the last of the shirts go to the true fans. Again, newrockstarsmerch.com. Follow me at EA Voss, follow New Rockstars, subscribe to New Rockstars on YouTube, hit that notification bell. We have lots more Star Wars theories to break down in the coming weeks. Thank you for watching this season. I have spoken.